Hi, I'm Naomi Folkard and I'm going to show you how to do limb alignment. When you're standing behind the bow, the string should go down the middle of the limb, then the middle of the long rod, and then the middle of the bottom limb. Okay, now I've got the locking nuts off, I can unwind the screws inside this and then eventually, this part will come off, and then there'll be another one on the other side. And then you can see that the screws which are inside here help move this. The metal dowel on the limb fits in here, and as you can see, this black part is all the way over to the left, and that's because I loosened this and I tightened this side. So if I do the opposite, you'll see it moving to the other side. Biter limb gauges are a perfect tool for the job. So you've got these two gauges here, two lines, and the string will go right down the middle of the two lines. You need to make sure that the sun is from behind, or your main sort of light is from behind you, so that you don't end up having one side of the string brighter than the other, because otherwise you get an illusion as to where the string actually is. You need to make sure that your limb is free from any pressure, so you can't put your limb lying on the ground. And we need to look at the long rod, but obviously the more joins you have for a V-bar and extender and things like that, the more chances of the long rod not being straight itself. So you need to be really sure that your long rod is straight in order to use that as a gauge for whether your bow is straight or not. I know that the limbs are completely in the wrong place, so I'm going to make an estimate and put them in what looks like is the middle. So I loosen the right side and then tighten the left side, and the limb moves over. So I have a little cheat, and that's to use the video in my phone. So on the screen I put the string just to the one side of the limb gauge and make sure that I can see the bottom limb gauge as well, and press record, and then sweep over from one side to the other side. And then I can pause the video and then gradually scroll until the string is in the middle of the top limb gauge. I can scroll, zoom in, and I can look at the long rod, and then I can scroll down to see the bottom limb gauge. Now what you can see now is obviously the long rod is a long way to the left, but that's because the limb's up to the left. So I need to move the limbs a little bit more right, and the bottom one a little bit more as well. So I loosen the right side and I tighten the left side. Now that's only about 1/4 of a turn, but I think that might be enough. And then a little bit more than 1/4 on the bottom. Loosen on the right, tighten on the left. Now let's see what's happened now. I went a little bit too far on that one, so I just need to even smaller movement in the opposite direction. So you can tell that we've had lockdown and I've not had to do this in over a year. So now you can see that the string is going down the middle of the top gauge, the long rod, and the middle of the bottom gauge. So success. A handy hint: after every time you've done a small adjustment, take out the last key that you were tightening with. That way I will always know that this key will tighten without moving. So I can tighten it up from this side, and I know it's not going to move the left and right because the adjustment was being done from the right side. and it will also help you remember which side you're working from. So one last thing, put back the locking nuts, but make sure you don't do it up too tight, because the screw inside is an expandable screw, so if you do it up really tight then you can damage it, so just finger tight. So that was limb adjustment. Don't be afraid of it, it can be quite tricky. I mean, that's the second time I've done it since lockdown, and before that it was probably 18 months since I did it, and it took me about an hour to get it right. So don't worry if you can't get it right to start with, just keep persevering, and if you get completely lost and confused, start again, move everything all over to one side and then have another go. You might find it useful if you write down and do a diagram, like write down, or I moved it this way and this is what I saw. Okay, have fun.